The first time I lost control, no one noticed. That's how I knew I was in trouble. It happened at 0600, under clean white lights and the approving silence of 30 elite wolves waiting for instruction. The training complex always smells the same in the morning. Steel, disinfectant, old sweat baked into reinforced flooring, and that sharp metallic edge that follows a good transformation. The walls are paneled in brushed alloy. The glass overlooking the arena is bulletproof and claw-proof. The sunrise filters through the panoramic windows like something holy, pale gold sliding over muscle and discipline. I stood at the center of the floor, barefoot, shoulders squared. 30 sets of eyes tracked me. "Shift," I said calmly. The sound that followed was bone and breath rearranging themselves into purpose. Spines lengthened, skin rippled, air filled with heat and instinct. Mine followed, smooth, controlled, practiced. Fur along my arms, claws extending cleanly from my fingertips, vision sharpening until I could count individual pulses in their necks. Perfect. I've spent 20 years making it look easy. "Revert," I commanded. The room contracted again. Flesh folded back into civility. Mine did too. Almost. The claws didn't fully retract, just a fraction, enough that the keratin edge caught the light. No one gasped. No one flinched. They were watching my face, not my hands. So I curled my fingers inward and clasped them behind my back. I smiled. "Speed's improving," I said evenly. "But your recovery lag is sloppy. If you can't come back clean, you don't deserve to go forward." A few of them straightened. Marcus, third row, tried not to look winded. Good instinct, poor discipline. Inside my palms, the claws resisted. A faint pressure, like a splinter under the nail. "Breathe." They slid back in. No one noticed. That's how I knew I was in trouble. I am 38 years old. That number means something different in our world. To civilians, it's stable, experienced, prime. To an alpha combat trainer, it's a clock. I carry my years well. The scar across my left shoulder, earned at 22, still draws glances in locker rooms. My movements are economical. I don't waste energy. I don't waste words. When I speak, they listen. When I look at them, they adjust. I have built a reputation that requires no volume. "Again," I said. Minimal gesture. No raised voice. They shifted. The air thickened with fur and power. My hearing sharpened in response, too sharply. I could hear the friction of skin against reinforced fabric in the observation deck above. The faint electrical hum behind the walls. The pulse in Marcus's throat. Erratic. Too much detail. The scent of blood from a split lip somewhere to my right hit me like a flare. Too bright. Too alive. I blinked once. Control. Alphas don't age. They become symbols. Or they fall. That's what I was taught. You don't slow down. You don't fracture. You don't hesitate. You either remain the standard, or you become a cautionary tale. "Hold form," I ordered. They obeyed. I didn't allow myself to check my hands again. The briefing came after the session. We stood in the upper conference room, all glass and muted gray, the arena visible below like a reminder of gravity. I rested my palms on the table, careful to keep them flat. Director Klein cleared his throat. "We'll be implementing a new enhancement protocol next quarter." Silence. Enhancement. The word hung wrong. "Designed by Julian Hart," Klein continued. "Beta physiologist. Transfer from East Coast Division." A few murmurs. Mostly curiosity. I didn't react. Beta. Physiologist. Innovator. 3 words that rarely survive long in rooms full of alphas. "What does it enhance?" I asked. "Transition speed, muscular output, reflex recalibration, and stability," I said. Klein hesitated. "Still under evaluation." There it was. "Instinct isn't software," I said evenly. "You don't patch it." Klein gave me that diplomatic look administrators perfect over decades. "He arrives tomorrow." Of course he does. I felt something shift under my skin. Not anger exactly. Irritation. The sense of someone reaching toward a structure I built, and deciding it could be improved. Numbers over instinct. Data over discipline. I've seen those experiments before. They don't account for the cost. Very well, I said. I don't argue in public. That's another thing about control. That night, I didn't dream. I woke. My sheets were torn. My jaw ached. The room was dark except for the thin blue light of the security panel. I sat up slowly. My right hand rested against the mattress. Claws extended. Not fully wolf. Not fully man. My vision adjusted in layers, infrared bleeding at the edges. Every sound amplified, pipes in the walls, wind against glass. My own heartbeat echoing too loud in my skull. Half shift. Uncommanded. My breath came shallow. I hadn't initiated. I hadn't felt it coming. That was new. Control, I muttered. The word sounded wrong. Too deep, too rough. I pressed my palm flat against the floor and forced the change back down, muscle by muscle, nerve by nerve. It took longer than it used to. When the claws finally withdrew, they left crescent scars in the wood. I stayed there for a long moment, sitting on the edge of my bed in the dark. Tomorrow, the beta would arrive. Tomorrow, someone who believed in numbers instead of instinct would walk into my facility. And for the first time in 20 years, I wasn't entirely sure my body would cooperate. No one noticed, but I did. The presentation hall smells like coffee, not blood, not sweat, not ozone from overstressed nervous systems. Coffee, it's wrong for this building. The arena below is all reinforced steel and impact glass, but up here, glass walls, polished floors, recessed lighting. A curved table faces a central projection platform, where holographic models shimmer in pale blue. Wolves mid-shift, muscle fibers igniting, neural pathways lighting like constellations. I stand at the back of the room, not seated. Alphas don't sit when something unfamiliar enters their territory. Director Klein adjusts his tablet. Julian Hart, he says, gesturing toward the center. The man steps forward. He's not what I expected. No lab coat. No nervous fidgeting. No avoidance of eye contact. Dark hair, neatly kept but not styled to impress. Sleeves rolled once at the forearm. Clean lines. Controlled posture. Gray eyes. Steady. He doesn't look at the floor. He looks at me. Not challenging. Not submissive. Just direct. Thank you for the opportunity, he says. His voice is calm. Even. No strain. No attempt to compensate for being the only beta in a room full of alphas. He taps the console. The hologram shifts. A wolf mid-transition freezes in 3 dimensions. Muscle groups highlighted. My protocol addresses 3 inefficiencies in elite transformation cycles, he begins. Latency in transition speed, incomplete muscular engagement, and unregulated adrenaline dispersion. The projection zooms in, neural pathways flare. With targeted neural feedback and controlled stimulus sequencing, we can reduce transition time by up to 18%. Murmurs ripple around the table. 18% is not small. He continues. Muscle fiber synchronization increases output without proportional energy loss. Reflex calibration improves recovery and directional change. Graphs bloom into the air. Biometric charts. Heart rate spikes. Hormone flow distribution. Clean. Ordered. Predictable. Instinct rendered in numbers. I step forward. You're accelerating a system built on balance, I say. He turns his head toward me. Not startled, not defensive. You're pushing instinct beyond its tolerance, I continue. Silence settles. Gray eyes meet mine without wavering. No, he says. I'm refining it. There's no bite in his tone. No provocation, just certainty. I feel it then. Not anger. Something tighter. Threat. Not to my authority in this room. I can break half the wolves here with a look. But to something else. Relevance. Instinct isn't inefficient, I say. It evolved to survive, and evolution favors adaptation. Julian replies smoothly. Not stagnation. A few heads shift. Klein clears his throat, attempting neutrality. Julian, explain the application model. Julian nods once. The protocol is non-invasive. neurosensory calibration during pre-shift phase, guided feedback during transition, structured recovery sequencing. The hologram shifts again, showing a wolf transitioning, then reverting with fluid precision. No lag, no tremor, too clean. And the cost? I ask. He doesn't hesitate. Elevated aggression markers during early implementation. Minor disorientation if improperly supervised. Minor, I repeat. His gaze sharpens. Just slightly. With correct oversight, yes. Meaning, without it? I press. He holds my stare. Meaning, it requires leadership. The room stills. He didn't say you, but he didn't need to. Director Klein interjects. Preliminary trials showed promising results. Preliminary, I echo. Julian shifts the hologram to a side-by-side comparison. Standard shift versus enhanced. The difference is obvious. Faster, stronger, cleaner lines. Around me, I can feel the interest building. Young alphas leaning forward, calculating. Speed means dominance. Power means survival. I've trained them to respect restraint. Now someone is offering amplification. You're optimizing aggression, I say. I'm optimizing control, he counters. There it is again. Control. The word lands heavier than it should. Last night flashes in my mind. The torn sheets, the half-form, the delayed retraction. I keep my face neutral. Julian gestures to a final slide. Biometric stabilization curves. Instinct isn't fragile, he says. But unmanaged strain accumulates over time. This protocol redistributes the load. Redistributes. I feel my jaw tighten. You're assuming strain, I say. He doesn't blink. I work with data. He replies quietly. Not assumptions. A thin line of heat crawls under my skin. Not anger. Exposure. He doesn't know anything about me. He can't. And yet, Director Klein folds his hands. The board has reviewed the proposal. Of course they have. We will initiate supervised trials next month. The room shifts again, energy rising. I don't move. You'll oversee the implementation, Klein adds, looking directly at me. Of course I will. Julian's gaze flickers back to mine. Not triumph. Not challenge. Assessment. As if I'm part of the experiment. Your facility has the highest discipline compliance rate, he says. It's the logical environment for accurate results. Polite, measured, clinical. You're bringing volatility into a system that functions, I tell him. And you're maintaining a system that's plateauing, he replies. The room feels smaller. For a moment, neither of us looks away. His eyes are gray, not cold, not warm. Just observant. I realize something unsettling. He's not trying to dominate this space. He's not trying to prove himself. He genuinely believes he's right. That might be worse. Klein stands. That concludes the briefing. Chairs scrape back. The smell of coffee lingers. Julian gathers his tablet. As he steps away from the platform, he pauses beside me. Up close, he's leaner than he looks at a distance. No wasted movement. No nervous tells. I look forward to working with you, Commander Vale, he says. Commander. Not Alpha. Not Sir. His eyes meet mine again. Steady. I value stability, he adds softly. It doesn't sound like flattery. It sounds like a variable. I value survival, I reply. A faint curve touches the corner of his mouth. Then we want the same outcome. He walks away. I remain standing in the presentation hall that smells like coffee instead of blood. This isn't about anger. It's about replacement. Instinct versus innovation. Claws versus numbers. And for the first time in years, I'm not entirely certain which side is winning. The arena smells different when you know something is about to go wrong. Ozone from the reinforced barrier grid hums faintly along the perimeter. The floor markings, white composite lines burned into black impact plating, divide the space into controlled zones. Observation glass curves above us in a half moon, the board and medical team watching from a safe distance. I stand at the center circle. 30 wolves ring the arena. Today, one steps forward. Marcus, I say. He doesn't hesitate. 24. Broad shoulders. Fast recovery time. Ambition practically radiates off him. He's been chasing my approval since he arrived 2 years ago. Volunteering? I ask. Yes, sir. There's hunger in his tone. Not recklessness. Not yet. Julian stands near the sideline console, tablet in hand. No lab coat. Just that same composed presence. Sleeves rolled. Gray eyes tracking the space like he's studying a weather system. This is a supervised trial, I announce. You follow my voice. You follow protocol. The moment I call reversion, you revert. Understood? Yes, sir. Julian steps forward just enough to activate the interface. The air shimmers as the neurosensory calibration field flickers on, barely visible, like heat distortion. Pre-shift alignment, Julian says calmly. Marcus inhales. I watch his shoulders, his breathing, the micro-tension in his hands. Shift, I command. Marcus transitions. Fast. Too fast. Bone elongates with a sharper snap than usual. Muscle forms in clean lines. Fur ripples into place like liquid shadow. The timing is precise. Julian's numbers were accurate. Marcus lands in full wolf, form nearly a second ahead of baseline averages. Murmurs ripple behind the glass. Engage, I order. We circle. His movement is sharper. His reaction time clean. When I feint left, he anticipates and counters without overcommitting. Power has increased. His impact when we collide sends a jolt up my spine. Stronger, cleaner, faster. I hear Julian's voice behind me, quiet but focused. Adrenaline dispersion within predicted range. Marcus lunges again. I push him harder. Test the edges. He responds with precision. For a moment, I feel it. That unsettling recognition. It works. I pivot. Knock him back. Revert. Marcus freezes. A half-second lag. Revert, I repeat. His body contracts. Fur recedes. Muscle compresses. Almost clean. Almost. His eyes remain gold. Not human gold. Not transitional. Predatory. His breathing doesn't slow. It spikes. Marcus, I say, stepping closer. Stand down. He blinks. Too slow. The barrier hum grows louder in my ears. The air smells sharper. Ozone and something metallic. His fingers twitch. Claws extend. Uncommanded. Revert, I say again, firmer. His chest rises too fast. His jaw tightens. His pupils don't adjust. Aggression markers. Julian moves toward the console. Cortisol spike. Marcus lunges. Not at me. At the nearest wolf to his right. I move before thought catches up. Shift. The transition tears through me on instinct. Bone. Heat. Weight. I hit him mid-air. We crash across the floor, claws scoring composite plating. The barrier flares brighter as our combined force spikes the field. I pin him. Marcus, I growl. His form flickers. Half wolf, half man. Fur receding and returning in pulses. His teeth snap inches from my throat. He's not thinking. He's riding something. Revert. I bark. He doesn't hear it. I tighten my grip. My own form pulses. For a split second. Too brief for anyone else to clock. I feel it. A ripple. Not instability, but a tremor. My claws hesitate before locking fully. My vision sharpens too far at the edges. The scent of Marcus's fear becomes intoxicating. Too bright. I shove it down. Control. Marcus, I say again, forcing my voice steady instead of dominant. Follow me. Breathe. He snarls. I lock eyes with him. Predator to predator, not dominance. Anchor. Breathe. A second passes. Then another. His chest stutters. The flicker slows. Fur begins to recede in uneven patches. His claws retract halfway, then fully. Finally, his eyes shift back to brown. Human. He collapses beneath me, trembling. I hold my form 1 second longer than necessary. Then, I revert. The reversion is clean. Except, a faint pulse lingers in my forearms. A vibration under the skin, like a current that doesn't fully dissipate. I rise slowly. Marcus stays on the floor, breathing hard. Medical staff rush in. Julian steps onto the arena floor. No panic in his stride. Just assessment. Vitals? He asks. Stabilizing, one medic replies. Julian's eyes flick briefly to Marcus. Then to me. He studies my hands. My shoulders. The way I flex my fingers once before folding them behind my back. He noticed. Of course he did. It functioned within projected thresholds for performance, he says carefully. Performance isn't the problem, I reply. He meets my gaze. No, he agrees. Recovery is... The room above us buzzes with murmured analysis. I look down at Marcus, now sitting up, shame flooding his expression. I lost it, he mutters. You pushed past the line, I say. That's different. His jaw tightens. He nods. Julian approaches me once the medics guide Marcus away. Up close, I can see the faint tension in his jaw. Not fear, concern. His neural feedback loop overcorrected, he says quietly. It can be recalibrated. And if it can't? I ask. Then we don't use it on him again. Simple, measured. He studies me another second too long. You compensated faster than baseline projections, he says. I've been doing this longer than you've been modeling it, I answer. A faint exhale, almost amusement. And yet, he says, you felt it too. My shoulders still. Felt what? That ripple. Silence stretches between us. The barrier hum fades back to standby levels. I hold his gaze. Focus on your variables, Dr. Hart, I say evenly. I am, he replies. His gray eyes don't move. Not from my hands. Not from the faint tremor I've almost mastered. The method works. That's the problem. And for the first time since he arrived, I understand something clearly. Acceleration is easy. Control is not. The lab smells like antiseptic and electricity. No coffee, no ozone, no blood, just sterile air and quiet machines. Julian's space is nothing like the arena. No reinforced floor scars, no claw marks, no history. The walls are smooth composite panels, pale gray under cold white lighting. Transparent screens float mid-air, streaming biometric data in steady, indifferent lines. Numbers don't flinch. I don't knock. He looks up the moment the door slides open, like he expected me. Commander, he says evenly. No surprise, no defensiveness, just acknowledgement. You almost got someone killed, I say. I don't raise my voice. I don't need to. Julian sets his tablet down slowly. Marcus exceeded projected aggression thresholds. Because you pushed him past them. I monitored the parameters in real time. And they failed. Silence hums between us. A monitor behind him scrolls heart rate variability curves from today's trial. He gestures toward the center platform. If you'd like to review the data, I don't need a graph to tell me when instinct fractures. Julian studies me for a second longer than comfortable. Then he taps the air. The holograms shift. A 3D projection of neural pathways blossoms between us. This, he says calmly, is Marcus's cortisol spike. The red flare pulses in the projection. Delayed reversion reflex, he continues. Temporary disassociation between limbic response and executive control. You mean, he lost control? Yes. The word lands without ego. Then the display shifts. New data streams overlay the first. Slower regeneration markers. Micro-latency and neuromuscular reset. Elevated resting cortisol patterns. I frown. That's not Marcus. No. The image rotates. My name appears in the corner. Cyrus Vale. My pulse registers in thin blue lines. I don't move. You pulled my file, I say. It was included in performance archives. You analyzed it. I analyze everything. My jaw tightens. On the screen, I watch my own data fluctuate. Subtle, incremental deviations over the last 18 months. Minor recovery lag after high output shifts. Increased stress markers during reversion cycles. Small, individually, meaningless. Collectively, a pattern. You had no authority to run projections on me, I say. I didn't run projections on you, Julian replies. He meets my eyes. I ran projections on degradation curves in senior alphas. You happen to fit the model. The words are precise, controlled, clinical. They hit harder than if he'd shouted. You think I'm degrading. I think you're compensating. The lab feels smaller, the cold light harsher. You built this protocol to create faster soldiers, I say. His head tilts slightly. You think I built this for rookies? The question lands like a blade. Silence. Stretches. Behind him, my biometric chart flickers again, resting cortisol above baseline. Recovery time slightly extended. Nothing catastrophic. Yet. You don't get to dissect me, I say. I'm not dissecting you. You're diagnosing me. I'm observing you. I step closer, close enough to see the faint shadow beneath his eyes. He's been running numbers late. You knew, I say quietly. Yes. No hesitation, no apology. When? I ask. 6 months ago. My chest tightens, not physically, something deeper. You watched me train, I say. I watched your recovery metrics. You watched me shift. I watched the lag. You said nothing. You would have rejected it. The honesty stings more than accusation would have. And so you decided to fix me without consent? I ask. I decided to build a system that addresses structural strain before collapse, he replies. Collapse? I repeat. His gaze softens. Not pity. Concern. Control isn't infinite, he says. Even for you. The room is silent except for the low hum of cooling systems. On the hologram, my regeneration curve slopes gently downward over time. It's subtle, almost invisible. Unless you're looking for it. I fold my arms. That doesn't mean I need enhancement. It means you need support. I don't require support. You're human and wolf, he says quietly, not a monument. That lands. Harder than any data point. I've spent 20 years being the standard, the immovable one. The reference point others measure themselves against. Monuments don't tremble. Monuments don't wake up half-shifted in the dark. You don't understand instinct, I say. And you don't trust adaptation, he replies. His voice never rises. He doesn't try to dominate the space. He simply stands there, steady, as if my anger is another variable to account for. You built this for me, I say finally. I built this for longevity. For me, I repeat. A beat. Yes, there it is. Not ambition, not ego. Intent. I should feel insulted. Instead, I feel exposed, seen in places I've carefully hidden. Delete my projections, I say. No, the word is calm. Firm. Gray eyes lock with mine. I won't let pride override prevention. For a second, the room feels like the arena again, tension crackling in the air. Except this isn't about dominance. It's about truth. You had no right, I say. I had responsibility, he replies. Silence hangs between us. Cold. Sharp. He didn't build the protocol to replace me. He built it because he saw something breaking and decided I was worth stabilizing. I don't know whether that makes him reckless or dangerous. But I do know one thing. He didn't just bring numbers into my territory. He brought a mirror, and I'm not sure I like what it reflects. It starts in my bones, not in thought, not in emotion, in bone. The training hall is empty when it happens. 2,200 hours. The overhead lights are dimmed to half power. Long white strips, reflecting off steel walls and reinforced glass. The arena floor still smells faintly of ozone from earlier drills. The locker room doors stand open, shadows stretching across composite flooring. I shouldn't be here. I told myself I needed an extra session. Recovery work. Controlled repetition. I lied. I needed to prove something. I step into the center circle. Shift, I say quietly to no one. The transition answers instantly, too instantly. Heat floods my spine like a snapped wire. Bone reshapes. Claws extend. The wolf lands heavy, breath misting in the cool air. For a second, perfect. Then it changes. The pulse under my skin doesn't stabilize. It accelerates. I try to revert. Revert, nothing. My claws remain. My jaw tightens. My vision sharpens past tolerance. The room fractures into layers of detail. Every scratch on the steel wall. Every microscopic scent embedded in the floor. The air smells wrong. Too alive. I force the shift down. The wolf recedes, but not fully. My face burns. Half muzzle, half man. Teeth elongate, then shorten, then elongate again. My breathing stutters. Inhale, too sharp. Exhale, too slow. I grip the wall. Composite plating dents under my fingers. Control, control, control. The word loses meaning when your nervous system stops listening. My reflection in the dark glass across the arena catches my eye. Not wolf, not human. Something between. Unstable. A low sound escapes my throat. More vibration than growl. I shove myself away from the wall. The next pulse hits harder. My spine arches involuntarily. Claws scrape down steel. Sparks spit across the floor. I don't remember crossing the arena. I remember the wall giving under my hands. I remember the sound. Then, Cyrus. The voice cuts through the noise. Calm. Even. Julian stands near the entrance to the hall. He doesn't rush forward. He doesn't shout. He doesn't look afraid. The fluorescent lights cast sharp shadows across his face. His sleeves are rolled. No lab coat. Just quiet presence. Stay where you are, he says gently. I bare my teeth. Not at him. At everything. Go, I manage. It comes out rough. Half-formed. He doesn't move. Your respiratory pattern is desynchronized, he says evenly. You're overcorrecting. You shouldn't be here. I know. He steps closer. Slow. Measured. The wolf in me reacts. I step back. Then forward. My breathing spikes again. Cyrus. His voice lowers slightly. Not commanding. Anchoring. Look at me. I do. His eyes don't flinch at the half muzzle, the uneven jaw, the claws tearing into the floor. He doesn't see a monster. He sees a system in overload. Your body is cycling between suppression and surge, he says. Stop fighting the surge. That's absurd. You don't stop fighting it. You contain it. You're fragmenting because you're forcing reversion, he continues. My vision flickers. The room tilts. I lunge forward. Not at him. Past him, trying to escape the pressure under my skin. He moves faster than I expect. Not wolf fast, but precise. He catches my wrists. Both of them. Firm grip. Not restraining. Not dominating. Stabilizing. My claws hover inches from his shoulders. He doesn't pull away. His hands are warm against my pulse points. Breathe with me, he says. My instinct is to rip free, to regain control through force, but his grip isn't force. It's contact. Inhale, he says softly. His chest rises. My body resists. Inhale. I drag air in. It burns. Good. Now hold. His thumbs press slightly into the inside of my wrists, right where the pulse jumps erratically. Exhale. My breath leaves in a rough, broken release. Again. We repeat it. Over and over. The wolf doesn't vanish, but it stops thrashing. My jaw retracts halfway, then fully. The fur along my arms flickers and recedes. Claws shorten, one at a time. My knees weaken. Julian doesn't let go. He adjusts his stance instead, bracing both of us. You're not collapsing, he says quietly. You're recalibrating. I close my eyes. That word again. Not failing. Recalibrating. I feel the pulse slow. The surge under my skin reduces from wildfire to current, My breathing evens out. My hands, human again, rest against his forearms. We are closer than I realized. Close enough to feel his heartbeat. It's steady. He was never afraid. You should have left, I say hoarsely. No. The answer is immediate. Why? His grip loosens slightly, but he doesn't step back. Because you were alone, he says. The simplicity of it hits harder than any diagnosis. Alphas don't lose control. Alphas don't need help. Alphas certainly don't let betas anchor their breathing in the middle of a fracture. And yet, I didn't rip away. I didn't attack. I didn't finish the collapse. You stabilized faster once you stopped suppressing, he continues quietly. Your body isn't breaking. It's compensating. For what? I ask. For carrying everything by yourself. The hall is silent now. No hum from the barrier. No sparring echoes. Just two heartbeats, slowly aligning. His hands finally release my wrists. But he doesn't step back. Not immediately. For a second longer than necessary, we remain there, close enough that I can see the faint crease between his brows. The concern he refuses to dramatize. You don't have to fight this alone, he says. I almost laugh. It comes out tired instead. You don't understand what that costs. He meets my eyes. Neither do you. There's no accusation in it, just fact. I step back first, regain space, regain structure. But something has shifted. He saw me fractured, half-formed. And he didn't look away. That might be more dangerous than the loss of control itself. I don't avoid him. I also don't seek him out. That's the lie I tell myself as I walk into the lab the next morning. The overhead lights are too bright. The air is too clean. My wrists still remember the pressure of his thumbs steadying my pulse. He's at the central console, sleeves rolled, gray eyes scanning data. He doesn't look up immediately. Sleep? He asks without turning. Functional. He nods once, like that's sufficient. Silence stretches. Not hostile. Heavy. You stayed, I say finally. He glances at me. You were mid-fracture. I told you to leave. You weren't thinking clearly. That's not your call. His gaze holds mine, calm but unyielding. Last night, it was... I cross my arms. The movement feels deliberate, defensive. You want to discuss protocol? I say. Let's discuss it. He taps the console. The holographic display shifts. Not Marcus this time. Not performance metrics. A new dataset blooms in the air. Age distribution curves. Recovery time, averages. Cortisol baseline shifts across decades. This is a longitudinal study, he says. Senior alpha combat profiles over 15 years. The graphs are clean. Clinical. The decline is subtle, but it's there. Regeneration latency increases gradually, he continues. Reversion synchronization slows. Aggression suppression requires greater neurological effort. You're describing fatigue, I say. I'm describing structural strain. The projection changes again. Case studies appear. Names I recognize. Men I trained beside. Some retired quietly. Some disappeared from active duty without explanation. You think they all broke? I ask. I think they all compensated until compensation failed. My jaw tightens. That's speculation. No, he says evenly. That's pattern recognition. He gestures toward a specific data cluster. Most alphas don't degrade dramatically. They destabilize incrementally. Small fractures, minor tremors, delayed reversions. He doesn't look at me when he says it. He doesn't have to. You built this to prevent that, I say. Yes. For Marcus? No. The word is quiet. Firm. For who? I ask. He finally meets my eyes fully. For the ones who refuse to admit they're carrying too much load. Silence. The lab hums faintly. You're not subtle, I say. I'm not trying to be. He taps another command. A familiar biometric profile fills the air. Mine. Cyrus Vale. My pulse pattern from last night overlays the long-term degradation curve. There's no dramatic spike. Just alignment. You tracked me, I say. I tracked the curve. You watched me. Yes. The honesty lands without apology. You should have told me. You wouldn't have listened. That's not your decision to make. No, he agrees softly. It's yours. He steps closer to the projection. Your regeneration time has slowed by 6% over 2 years. Your cortisol spikes during high output shifts have increased. Your reversion latency has doubled in high-stress scenarios. He doesn't dramatize it. He doesn't exaggerate. He just states it. You were already fighting alone, he says. The words settle in the air between us. I open my mouth. Then close it. Because he's not wrong. The late-to-night drills. The extra sessions. The suppression. The force. I thought discipline could override biology. That will could override where. You assumed I was building faster wolves, he continues. I was building a support system. For me, I say. For longevity. For me, I repeat. A breath passes. Yes. There it is again. Not ego. Not ambition. Care. You studied my files, I say. I studied senior alpha collapse cases. You included me. You matched the pattern. I look at my own biometric projection. The lines are subtle, not catastrophic, but trending. You think I'm close to failure? I say. I think you're close to overextension. There's a difference. I know there is. But admitting it feels like surrender. What does your protocol actually do? I ask. Redistributes neurological load during transition, he replies. Reduces suppression strain. Allows controlled integration instead of forced reversion. You want me to stop suppressing? I want you to stop tearing yourself in half every time you shift. The lab feels smaller again. Colder. I've maintained control for 20 years, I say. And it's costing you more every year, he answers. No accusation, just fact. I search for an argument. For dominance. For something sharp enough to cut this conversation in half. I don't find one. Because this isn't about hierarchy. It's about sustainability. You should have trusted me enough to tell me, I say quietly. He studies my face. I was waiting for you to ask. I let out a breath. Not a growl. Not a command. Just air. And if I refuse? I ask. Then I'll continue refining the protocol for when you don't. I almost smile. It's audacious. It's infuriating. It's steady. You assume I'll need it, I say. I assume you deserve to last. The words land harder than data. Harder than accusation. No one has ever framed my survival as something to preserve. Only something to demand. I look at the projection again. At the curve. At the subtle slope. At the evidence I've been pretending not to see. For the first time since this began, I don't have a counter-argument. And that unsettles me more than any fracture ever could. The chamber is nothing like the arena. No steel walls. No scorch marks. No echoes of impact. The neurosensory synchronization room is circular. Matte black with thin silver seams tracing geometric patterns along the floor and ceiling. The lighting is low, cool, indirect. The air hums softly, not with power, but with calibration. It feels less like a battlefield. More like a confession booth. You can still walk out, Julian says. He's standing near the central interface column, sleeves rolled, tablet in hand, not nervous, not eager. Just ready. I don't walk out, I reply. A faint curve touches his mouth. Noted. I remove my jacket and set it aside. My shoulder scar pulls slightly under the lights, white against tan skin, a reminder of the first time I nearly didn't survive a shift in combat. Explain it again, I say. Neural feedback modulation during transition, he answers. You won't suppress the surge. You'll let it pass through a guided loop, meaning you stop fighting yourself. I step into the center of the chamber. Thin silver lines illuminate beneath my feet. Sensors engage, mapping pulse and muscle tension in real time. I can feel it. Not invasive, but aware. You're not here to control the process, Julian says calmly. You're here to experience it. I glance at him. And you? I'm here to anchor the sequence. Anchor. That word again. Begin calibration, he says quietly. The room darkens further. A low tone vibrates through the floor, steady, rhythmic. Breathe normally, Julian instructs. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't bark commands, doesn't take authority. He trusts I understand my own body. That's new. Shift, I say. The transition begins. Heat flares through my spine. Bone lengthens. Skin tightens. The wolf rises, and the chamber responds. Instead of resistance, I feel redirection. The surge doesn't slam into a wall. It flows, guided. My pulse spikes, but the silver lines beneath me brighten, adjusting to my rhythm. Don't suppress, Julian says. Let the first wave crest. Instinct screams to clamp down, to contain. I don't. The wolf expands fully. For a second, I am complete. Powerful. Then the second wave hits. Harder. Memory fractures across my vision. A training field 15 years ago. My first official command. Blood on snow. My voice sharper. Younger. I remember the first time I won. The first time others looked at me like I was the standard. I also remember the cost. The exhaustion that followed. The nights spent forcing my body to revert clean when it wanted to stay. You're spiking, Julian says calmly. Stay with it. The memory shifts. I'm older, leading, commanding, watching recruits age beneath my standards, watching some fall short, watching others surpass. And underneath it all, the quiet fear. What happens when they stop looking at you like you're necessary? My breathing falters. The wolf flickers. Half-formed tremor. Cyrus, Julian says softly. Not commander, not alpha, just my name. You're not obsolete, he continues. You're adapting. The fear sharpens. Not of weakness, of irrelevance, of becoming a relic. The wolf snarls at the thought. The chamber pulses in response. Redirect, Julian says. Don't force it down. I don't know how, I admit. It comes out rough, honest. Then don't do it alone. His voice is steady, close. I realize he stepped into the chamber with me. Within arm's reach. He doesn't touch me. He doesn't need to. Match my breathing, he says. I listen. His inhale is controlled. Even, my body hesitates. Then follows. Inhale. The surge doesn't vanish, but it steadies. Exhale. The tremor reduces. My claws extend, then retract without resistance. The wolf shifts back to human form in smooth layers. Not forced, not suppressed, integrated. My knees almost give. I stay upright. The chamber lights brighten gradually. Sensors dim. My heart rate drops into baseline range faster than it has in months. Julian studies the console. Reversion latency reduced, he says quietly. Suppression strain minimal. I look at my hands. No tremor. No pulse under the skin. Not perfect, but stable. That wasn't complete stabilization, he adds. But it's progress. I nod once. The chamber door slides open. Cool air flows in. I step out slowly. You didn't command, I say. I'm not your superior officer. You didn't override. That would have triggered resistance. You stepped inside the chamber. Yes. Why? He meets my gaze. Because the protocol only works if you trust the anchor. Trust. The word sits heavier than control. You're asking for a lot, I say. I know. He doesn't look away. I realize something uncomfortable. I didn't fight him. Not in the chamber. Not when the memories surfaced. Not when the fear of becoming unnecessary twisted in my chest. He didn't see a legend. He saw strain. And stayed anyway. How long until full stabilization? I ask. That depends, he says. On what? On how much you're willing to stop fighting. I almost smile. Almost. I've built a career on fighting, and you're very good at it, he replies. A beat passes. But this isn't an enemy. The chamber behind us powers down completely. For the first time in months, when I flex my fingers, There's no echo of claws waiting beneath the skin. Not gone, but quiet. That might be the most dangerous shift of all. The arena is full. Not just trainees this time. Board members line the upper observation deck. Medical staff are positioned along the perimeter. Even a few representatives from other divisions stand behind the glass, arms folded, eyes sharp. Public evaluation, public judgment. The air smells electric. Ozone humming from the reinforced barrier grid, tension coiled tight beneath polished discipline. Julian stands near the main console, calm as ever, sleeves rolled, tablet ready. His posture doesn't change under scrutiny. Mine doesn't either. Final demonstration, Director Klein announces over the intercom. Supervised integration protocol? Integration, not enhancement. That wording wasn't accidental. Marcus steps forward. He insisted. I need to prove I can handle it. He told me earlier. His jaw is set now, determination threaded with something quieter, fear. You don't need to prove anything, I said. I do, he answered. Ambition again. And pride. I understand both. You follow my voice, I tell him now. Yes, sir. Julian activates the field. Silver calibration lines shimmer faintly beneath Marcus's boots. Pre-shift alignment, Julian says. Marcus inhales. I watch his chest, his shoulders, his hands shift. The transformation is fast, cleaner than the first trial. Bone reshapes with minimal distortion. Fur ripples smoothly into place. The wolf lands steady. Board members murmur behind the glass. Engage. I command. Marcus moves. Faster than before. He circles me. Power coiled tight in muscle and reflex. We clash. Impact reverberates through the floor. He recovers from each feint without overshooting. His aggression is contained, directed. Julian's voice carries quietly from the sideline. Adrenaline within calibrated range. Good. We disengage. Revert, I order. Marcus freezes, a heartbeat too long. Revert, I repeat. His fur recedes, then surges. The wolf flickers violently. Eyes remain gold. Not transitional. Predatory. No. Someone mutters behind the glass. Marcus's breathing spikes. The calibration lines beneath his feet flare red. Cortisol surge, Julian says sharply. Marcus turns his head toward the observation deck. His lips peel back. He doesn't see them. He smells threat. The board shifts uneasily. Stand down, I command. He doesn't respond. His form distorts. Half human, half wolf. Claws extend unevenly. Marcus, I bark. He lunges. Not at me. At the barrier. The reinforced grid flares as he slams into it. Panic ripples across the deck. Medical personnel scramble. Field destabilizing, Julian calls. Marcus snarls. Disoriented, aggression unanchored. I don't hesitate. Shift. The wolf takes me in a single fluid wave. But this time, I don't suppress the surge. I let it crest. Heat floods my spine. Claws extend fully. Vision sharpens, but doesn't fracture. I step between Marcus and the barrier. He spins toward me, teeth bared. I don't bare mine. I breathe. Inhale. The chamber memory echoes in my mind. Don't suppress. Integrate. Marcus lunges. We collide mid-floor. The impact shakes the arena. He claws for dominance, for control, for something to fight. I don't fight him. I anchor. I let the wolf exist without forcing it down. Inhale. My pulse spikes, then steadies. Marcus, I growl. Not command. Name. Recognition. He snaps again. I shift my weight. Pin him. Not brutally, not crushing. Just enough. Breathe, I say. The word vibrates through the wolf's throat. He thrashes. Breathe. I don't tighten my grip. I don't dominate. I hold. Inhale. My chest rises. Exhale. The wolf doesn't push against the shift. It rides it. Marcus's form flickers again. Fur ripples in uneven waves. His breathing remains erratic. Julian's voice cuts through the chaos. Cyrus, synchronize. I inhale again. Longer. Slower. I let the instinct surge through instead of bracing against it. The wolf doesn't try to overpower Marcus. It steadies him. Gradually, his breathing stutters. Then, matches mine. The calibration lines dim from red to white. His claws retract halfway, then fully. His eyes flicker. Gold. Brown. Gold. Brown. Stay with it, Julian says. I don't look at him. I don't need to. Inhale. Exhale. Marcus's body contracts. Fur dissolves back into skin. His limbs settle. Human. Trembling. The arena is silent. I remain in wolf form for one more breath. One controlled, integrated breath. Then, I revert. The transition flows back into human shape without resistance. No tremor. No pulse. No lag. Clean. The first clean reversion I've felt in months. I release Marcus slowly. He collapses onto his back, staring at the ceiling, chest heaving. Medical staff rush forward, but Julian raises a hand slightly. Give him a second. Marcus turns his head toward me. I thought I lost it. He whispers. You did, I say calmly. Then you found it. I offer him a hand. He takes it. His grip is steady. Behind the glass, the board members are no longer murmuring. They're watching, not the protocol. Me. I flex my fingers. Nothing trembles. Nothing pulses. Julian steps closer. You didn't suppress, he says quietly. No. You integrated. Yes. A faint, almost invisible exhale escapes him. For the first time since this began, there is no fracture under my skin. No claw waiting to erupt. No half-form pressing against bone. Control doesn't feel like a clenched fist anymore. It feels like balance. Marcus is escorted out for evaluation. The board begins speaking in low, urgent tones. I turn to Julian. You were right, I say. His brows lift slightly. That's a rare sentence, he replies. I almost smile. Don't get used to it. But something has shifted. Not just in protocol. In me. The threshold wasn't about speed or strength. It was about trust. And for the first time in years, I didn't fight alone. The arena smells the same as it always has. Steel, sweat, ozone. But something under it has changed. Not the structure, the atmosphere. The board didn't shut the program down. They revised it. That matters. The protocol is no longer classified as an enhancement initiative. It's been restructured under adaptive stabilization, designed for longevity, not amplification. Trials now require dual supervision. Psychological metrics weigh as heavily as physical output. Integration, not acceleration. The younger alphas didn't like the wording at first. They came to my office in pairs. Sir, does this mean we're slowing down? No, I said. It means you're learning to last. That shut them up. Marcus returned to the arena 3 days after the demonstration, clear-eyed, steady. His first reversion under the revised protocol was slower than before. Cleaner. He looked relieved. You didn't look disappointed, he said to me afterward. I don't train for speed, I replied. I train for sustainability. He nodded. He understood. That's the difference. I don't hide my sessions anymore. The senior alphas know. They watch me step into the synchronization chamber without secrecy, without pretense. I don't announce why. I don't need to. They're not blind, and I'm no longer pretending to be unbreakable. There's a difference between strength and denial. It took me longer than I care to admit to recognize that. Julian works later than he should. I find him in the lab most evenings now, not because I'm checking on him, because I've stopped pretending I'm not. He's reviewing recalibrated data when I step inside. You adjusted Marcus's neural threshold, I say. Yes, he replies, without looking up. He was overcompensating for fear of repetition. You notice that? I notice patterns. He glances at me. And you? I noticed he stopped forcing it. Julian nods faintly. Because you stopped forcing him. There's no accusation in it, just acknowledgement. The lab feels less sterile these days. Or maybe I do. You've restructured the program well, I say. You made that easier. Don't exaggerate. I don't. I lean against the console. He studies my posture the way he studies everything else. Carefully, without judgment. You shifted twice today, he says. Yes. No tremor. No. Latency. Minimal. He allows himself a small exhale. It's subtle, but it's there. So, I say, folding my arms loosely instead of defensively, I'm your most successful experiment? He finally smiles. It's rare, unpracticed. You're my most stubborn variable. I snort softly. That's not an answer. It's accurate. You built this because you saw a problem. I built it because I saw potential for failure. In me. In the system. He corrects gently. And I was part of the system. Yes. There's no edge to it now. No confrontation. Just clarity. You know, I say, most betas would have tried to prove themselves. I wasn't trying to prove anything. What were you trying to do? Prevent collapse. The simplicity still disarms me. I've spent my career bracing for challenge, for dominance contests, for wolves trying to test my strength. Julian never tested it. He tested my sustainability. There's a difference. You didn't panic, I say. When? Last week. In the arena? Yes. He tilts his head slightly. Panic doesn't solve systemic overload. That's not what I meant. He watches me carefully. You didn't panic. I repeat, quieter. When I fractured, his gaze softens. I trusted your baseline. That's a dangerous gamble. It wasn't a gamble. He meets my eyes. It was trust. The word settles without tension this time. Not heavy. Not threatening. Just present. The center has changed its approach. The younger alphas train for integration now, not domination. The senior ones ask questions instead of hiding strain. I stand in the arena without pretending I'm invulnerable. And somehow, that hasn't reduced authority. It's deepened it. You're adapting well, Julian says lightly. I was always capable of adaptation. Of course you were. There's humor in his tone. A quiet one. I straighten. You realize I'll still argue with you. I'd be concerned if you didn't. And I won't always agree. I don't require agreement. I study him for a moment. You're remarkably comfortable being right. I'm comfortable being precise. I shake my head once. And for the first time in a long time, I feel something close to ease. Not because I'm stronger than I was, but because I'm no longer fighting the wrong battle. The wolf doesn't need to be suppressed. It needs to be understood. And for once, I'm not the only one doing the understanding. Morning light makes everything honest. It spills through the panoramic windows of the arena in long gold bands that catch on steel walls and reinforced glass. The air smells clean, metal and anticipation, not ozone and panic. The younger alphas are already lining up when I enter. They straighten instinctively, not out of fear, out of respect. That difference matters. Warm-up sequence, I say. My voice carries evenly across the floor. Marcus stands in the front row now. Steady, focused, not hungry for dominance, hungry for discipline. I remove my jacket and place it on the bench. There is no secrecy anymore. They know I've been running integration sessions. They know I've adjusted my training structure. They know I'm not pretending to be 25. And none of that has diminished their attention. Observe, I tell them. I step into the center circle. The silver calibration lines are off. No chamber. No sensors. Just me. Just the arena. Just instinct. I inhale. The shift begins slowly. Not explosive. Not forced. Bone lengthens in deliberate sequence. Muscle reshapes with controlled precision. Heat flows through my spine like a steady current instead of a wildfire. The wolf rises without resistance. Fur settles cleanly. Claws extend. Fully, smoothly. No tremor. No flicker. No fracture. The arena remains silent. I stand in full form, breathing evenly. Then, I exhale and let the reversion unfold, not suppressed, not commanded. Allowed, the wolf recedes in fluid layers. Claws retract without hesitation. Vision softens naturally. Muscle settles back into human structure like a tide returning to shore. I open my eyes fully human. Still, balanced, no delayed pulse, no echo under the skin. The room exhales with me. Transition isn't a contest, I say. It's a conversation. A few of them exchange glances. Marcus nods almost imperceptibly. You don't dominate your form, I continue. You coordinate with it. I step back. Pair drills. The session unfolds smoothly. Controlled shifts. Clean reversions. No one pushes past the line. No one needs to. From the observation deck, I feel eyes on me. Not assessing. Watching. I glance up. Julian stands near the railing. Sleeves rolled. Tablet forgotten at his side. He isn't analyzing. He's simply observing. When training ends and the others disperse, I climb the stairs to the upper level. The sunlight is brighter up here. You didn't use the chamber, he says. No. You didn't need it. No. He studies me carefully. Gray eyes steady. Still think I'm outdated? I ask. It's half challenge, half curiosity. A small, genuine smile touches his mouth. No, he says. I think you're evolving. The word lands differently now. Not as correction, not as critique. As recognition. I was always capable, I say. I know. You just didn't trust the method. You just didn't trust the anchor, he counters lightly. I lean against the railing beside him. Below us, Marcus is laughing at something one of the younger alphas said. The sound is easy, unforced. The facility doesn't feel like a battlefield anymore. It feels like something built to last. You know, I say, most people would have backed down. From you? Julian raises a brow. Statistically unlikely. I huff a quiet laugh. From the resistance. He shrugs slightly. Resistance usually indicates importance. I study him. You stayed. Yes. Even when I didn't make it easy. I wasn't looking for easy. Silence settles between us. Comfortable. Not charged with tension anymore. Just steady. I flex my fingers once. No claws press against the skin. No tremor waits beneath the surface. Control feels different now. Lighter. Less like something I have to clamp down on. More like something I hold. I look out over the arena. Over steel and glass and years of discipline. For most of my life, I believed control meant containment. Contain the surge. Contain the weakness. Contain the fear of becoming unnecessary. I was wrong. Control isn't a clenched fist. It's an open palm. And for the first time, I'm not gripping the future like it might slip away. I'm standing at the edge of change, not at the end. And I'm not standing there alone.